My marriage started disintegrating, and I didn't see that coming. So I was really feeling very heavy, very heartbroken over it. There were days I could barely get out of bed. Like, I was just paralyzed.
Lavinia is the co-founder of Equinox, the founder of MOVEJOY, and someone that holds personal emotional well-being to such a high regard.
You have to realize, our biggest competition in those days was happy hour. Instead of going to happy hour and drinking and mingling, and so now I had to say, no, you're going to come here.
Yeah.
And you're going to still have a vibe. It's still going to be sexy. It's still going to be hot.
Yeah.
And you're going to be doing something really good for yourself.
All right, well, thank you guys so much. We have the amazing Lavinia Errico here joining us on the episode of the Billionaire Hour podcast. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on. Lavinia is the co-founder of Equinox, the founder of MOVEJOY, and someone that holds personal emotional well-being to such a high regard. So happy to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Colin. Happy to be here.
Of course. Now, I am very happy to admit that I'm the biggest person that prioritizes daily routine. So if I don't go to the gym in the morning, my day is essentially ruined, and I don't feel centered within myself. So, for someone like you, let's kind of just dive right in. Do you have a very strict daily routine that you do every single day?
So when I hear the word strict,
Okay.
that gets the hair up on my back. So I want you to understand that. For me, I have my rituals.
Yeah.
And that's how I view kind of my whole day is just these, and they're beautiful rituals. They're rituals that make me feel so good.
Yeah.
My rituals actually start before I even get out of bed.
Yeah.
And it does include movement, for sure. And I also check in, even though I have a plan on what it's going to be the next day.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is what my movement plan is going to be. And I also connect to how I feel in the morning.
Yeah.
So if my body is feeling stiff, or if I didn't get the best night's sleep, and my plan was to actually do a really rigorous exercise program, I'm gonna adapt to how I feel. And I encourage people to do that, because very often when we don't listen to our body and we're not connected to our body and we're just following that rigidity of a plan, that's where people get injured and they get hurt, and then they actually stop loving working out because it becomes a chore.
Yeah.
So I really encourage people. Like last week, I had a plan that I was doing my weight training workout, and I got up and I was like, I need hot yoga. Your body talks. It talks to you. It's so beautiful.
Now, how do you feel, how do you do this check-in with your body every morning? And how do you know what your body wants?
First of all, there's a lot of things. Like, I wake up in the morning, and before I start tossing and turning. Yeah. And because I did a gratitude list, and I just did that for years and years and years, and now it's become a habit. I don't even have to write it anymore. And I just do that for about 10 minutes. Then I get up and I sit up, and I literally start some very light breath work just to, and I touch my body and I start saying, first of all, just thank you for waking up. I thank my heart for beating all night, because your heart never stops beating, right? You're sleeping, your heart still goes. So take a moment. I say, thank you, heart. I look around and I really immerse myself in how grateful I am, because they always say that 150,000 people didn't wake up in the morning. And something like 75,000 of them had no idea that they weren't going to wake up. So just waking up
is a big thing to be celebrated.
It's amazing. Yeah. And so I kind of go through that. And then I notice when I walk, I get up, I go to the restroom, I'm like, that's when I start checking in with my body. I start noticing as I'm moving now, but I become aware. You have to be conscious. Most people do things so unconsciously. Like, I walk to the restroom and I'm like, okay, how are my feet feeling? How is my body feeling?
Kind of this daily check-in with every single aspect, which makes sense, because again, if you wake up and you're not feeling great, going and doing a crazy workout in the morning is really hurting your body.
And sometimes I move things around. Like, I might do a walk and yoga in the morning, and then by the 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I felt great. So I'm going to get that harder workout in the afternoon. It's not like I completely don't do it. I just kind of adapt to it. But that's becoming aware. That's awareness.
I know that when we started, I mentioned that I have a very strict routine. I know that you said you have your ritual. So I guess, having a strict routine, it sounds like you would obviously be against that and kind of checking with your body every single day.
Well, I mean, when I say strict, people that know me say, my God, Lavinia, you're so disciplined.
Yeah.
But I don't view it as, for some reason, I don't look at it. Maybe it's just also the way I word things. Because when I hear the word strict and I hear the word discipline, it's like, it feels rigid. It doesn't feel like I'm in a flow.
Yeah.
Like you want life to be in a flow. It's so important to be, and then to know. And I guess for sure there's discipline. And now for me, these have been things I've been doing since I'm your age. I'm very lucky that, like you, I needed to work out. I started actually working out very young. I was a dancer.
Wow.
And as a dancer, and I was never thin enough. And I heard a young girl when I was in this professional group at about 12 say, well, too bad her body's more like a soccer player, not a dancer's body. Wow. So that began my fixation with having a better body, a perfect body, a dancer's body. And I didn't have that kind of dancer's body. I have broader shoulders. I'm a more athletic body than that skinny rail, especially in years ago. The dancers just all wanted to look like, they were emaciated. Today, thankfully, dancers have more
been a
physical
trend.
So much more. Muscles are very wanted, right?
Now, it sounds like your rituals you do every day are obviously, kind of, as you just mentioned, attributed to your upbringing. I mean, where did you grow up? Did you grow up here in Los Angeles?
No, I grew up in New Jersey, in Hackensack, big Italian family. But my rituals, they weren't like I was very lucky that my mom was an amazing cook. Amazing.
I feel like that's a pretty common trend among Italians.
It is.
That sounds amazing,
like,
growing up with Italian food.
Things did not come out of a can.
Yeah.
Things did not come out of a box. And she made beautiful meals every night. And so our food was, my mom would read. I mean, going to the grocery store with her was the worst thing because before she would even buy something, she would just sit there and read the cans. Yeah. And I'd be like, Mom, let's go. And it would be like, I grew up with that level of awareness.
Which is really important. I mean, I guess, like, what kind of qualities would you get growing up in New Jersey with, this kind of lifestyle that someone growing up in, like, New Mexico wouldn't get?
Qualities of movement?
Like in terms of your movement, and I guess your awareness.
I mean, listen, I don't think anybody thought about that in those days. Yeah. I think my mom had 5 kids in 2.5 years because she had 2 sets of twins. And we were very active. Like I don't know. Probably today we would have been called ADHD or AD. I don't know. They didn't have those labels when I grew up. But we had a lot of energy. Yeah. We just had so much energy. So the way she handled us was sports, movement. Yeah. Like, she didn't call it movement. She was like, go outside and play. When she made sure that, we knew how to ride a bike at a young age. Yeah. Like, I don't know. It was just this thing to be more active, They bought a big trampoline when nobody had trampolines in their backyard. Like, you couldn't go to, like, Costco and buy a trampoline. Yeah. I don't even know. My father went to, like, a circus store and got a trampoline so we could have a trampoline in our backyard because we got tired at the end of the night and we would actually sleep.
Because you had a full day of movement.
Exactly. And so we grew up with it. And it wasn't like they were sitting around talking about wellness. Yeah. They weren't. It was like a necessity. I started dancing at 5. Yeah. I was always dancing 7 days a week. And I always say, like, challenges very often open up the door to opportunity. And because I didn't have that dancer's body per se, I had to work out harder. So I was I remember going to this one women's gym with my mom at a young age and taking the calisthenic classes, I think they called them then, and I loved it. Where most kids at like 10 or 12 would have loathed going there, and I couldn't wait. Come on, Mom, let's go to that.
So it sounds like from a young age, there was a lot of focus on movement, which obviously makes sense leading to MOVEJOY and these rituals. Would you contribute, growing up, always getting outside, being tired at the end of the day, to a lot of the rituals that you have and kind of like your method, like your methodology now?
For sure.
No.
Like, there's no doubt that, and again, some of them I think were family rituals, though we didn't frame them that way. And then some of them were just more my own personal. Personal through loving to dance and dancing and knowing that I had the kind of body that needed more than just dance class, that I had to work out more, I had to be more mindful of the food that I ate. My first year in college, I went to OU, Ohio University, and I literally was jump roping for a half an hour down in the garage, sometimes an hour. Because that's all I could afford. And I would literally jump rope for a half hour. Then I'd have a deck of cards. And I'd take the deck of cards, and when I would turn it over, if it was a king, I would do 10 push-ups. And so at the end, I would do something like 585 push-ups.
Gosh.
And then I would do the same thing with sit-ups.
Okay.
And sometimes I would do like 2 decks of sit-ups. But I was definitely a little obsessive. For sure.
But it sounds like in a very good way of, kind of promoting movement. I mean, I guess it, kind of like looking at your upbringing, I mean, it really sounds like this movement really encouraged you to always stay moving in all aspects, right?
Honestly, Colin, when I look back, movement, it was so integrated into my life. And it saved me in some ways. My childhood was overall really good, but there were aspects of it that at times were hard.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have that, I don't know. Like other kids got in, not my family, but other kids got into drugs or into alcohol. I never did. Like this was how I dealt with anything challenging was through movement. And I was lucky because at dance, it wasn't just movement, but it was movement and community. So that's why I'm such a believer in both movement and community.
Yeah,
because
dance is a very healthy balance of all of that.
It was. I mean, at times it can be, like I said, because you wanted your body to look a certain way. So, I definitely over the years watched dancers, starve themselves and clearly not get the nutrients that they needed, because they were just eating lettuce and espresso coffee. So, there were definitely some negative, but overall, you're moving. And like I always say, movement is life and life is movement.
Definitely.
Like just keep moving, and also because when you move your body, it also allows you to have a more adaptable mind.
Yeah.
Because one thing I know for certain, when you're dead, you're not going to be moving.
Yeah.
Right? So like,
Definitely. So now's the time to move.
and you want to move, but you want to move, you want to flow. You want to move in the right way. You want to understand movement. Like when you really start understanding, like to even understand that every single organ in your body is connected to your spine.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Right. So the spine, you want to keep that spine healthy.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you're moving your spine in a certain way because, again, the cerebral fluid that is in that spine, when you move, and the spine moves 6 ways. It moves front and back, side and side, and twist and twist. So you want to be moving like that. You want that cerebral fluid. The cerebral fluid is what nourishes your discs. So when people are just laying down and lifting and doing those kind of workouts, they're not getting their spine moving. So it's like, for me, it's about knowing how to really move your body in ways that it's nourishing it, really nourishing it. Now, once you've do the nourish part of it, then you could go do the heavy lifting or some of that. But get in that really good work. Get in that, cervical spine that you're moving it and getting. So it's like, for me, movement has so many things. And then, I always say that like the neck, the cervical spine, is the bridge between the heart and the mind. So if people have all these stiff necks and rigidity, we have all these lymph nodes here. This has to move, If that is so tight, your traps get so tight from lifting a certain way and you're moving your neck, the lymph isn't moving. Like there's so many other aspects of it that need to be looked at other than just the traditional workouts.
And by starting every single day, I mean, energizing that movement and starting it, I mean, you're right. Like waking up doing the same weightlifting routine and stuff every single day is not really going to target a lot more of like the fuller body movements.
Exactly. Like, the motion. I always say that motion is our lotion.
Yeah.
But most people, when they go to the gym, they do this like stretching, and it's not really doing much. So for me, it's like I love breath work.
Yeah.
I love breath work. And I've done breath work now for maybe over 10 years. But what would happen is you would go to these amazing breath workshops. And it was like, oh my God, this is so good.
Yeah.
And you leave, you're high, you're on a dopamine high, and you're like, but then you don't do the breath work till the next workshop.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I started doing a couple of years ago was adding, when I tell you when I start stretching in the morning when I'm doing my oil pulling, right? And so even with that, I have the oil in my mouth and I'm doing breath work while I'm moving my body, right? And then once I get it out, I really move. I'm moving, and I'm moving just with the breath work. And to really release. And when you sleep, there's your unconscious is speaking. So the dreaming and stuff, that can even make the body tense. So you want to release all that energy, So, for me, when I listen to all these people with all their biohacking, I mean, it's all great. I've been doing infrared sauna since 2001.
Wow.
And the same thing with ice. I mean, we actually had a cold plunge in our Equinox on 63rd Street. And that was in 1998.
Wow. So you guys were the pioneers there of that.
I mean, here's the deal. Nobody used it. But we had it. I mean, we would have to literally bring people in there to get them to go from the hot to the cold. But so we had that in the cold plunge then, So we were definitely ahead of our times and things like that.
Now, I'm very excited to get to the Equinox discussion and, kind of dive deeper into MOVEJOY. But I think one thing that is a lot of really prevalent along a lot of entrepreneurs is, your child and your upbringing really completely catapults you into life. So, for a moment, I want to dive deeper into your childhood. I know you said that you used movement as a way to kind of get out there, separate from some of the struggles that you were going through. Do you mind extrapolating on that a little bit?
Well, like I said, dance was definitely something that I started young. But you can imagine being in a family with, my mom had 5 kids in 2.5 years, and then she had another one. That's a lot of kids. And so, the house was a bit crazy, a bit chaotic. She was an amazing mom, and she also had a terrible temper. So, how you would deal with that could be, a bit challenging, especially as a young, and I was the eldest girl. I have a twin brother. So I always was trying to caretake everything. I was always trying to manage her temper in a kind of weird way. I would even run home from school at lunchtime. My mom was working, and I would come home at lunchtime and clean the house. Because if she came in and there were all of the cereal dishes on the table, it was like that could stir her up. And I just wanted us to all come home from school and have peace. So I would literally, I remember putting the chairs on top of the table, vacuuming, sweeping, and then mopping the floor. So that when she came home, the house was clean. I mean, that's a lot for a fourth grader.
Definitely.
Or a third grader, And I did it because I loved her. I did it from such a place of love. So that kind of energy and that kind of anxiety, so to speak, as a young girl, always waiting, is she going to have another rage thing? It was... And as amazing my mom was, she was amazing, and I totally just so you know, I love her and I forgive her, and there's no and I also know I wouldn't be the woman I am today if I didn't go through those challenges. So I don't have any resentment for that because I know I am so resilient. I have this strength that I know I have because of some of those challenges. So there's no resentment there at all.
Now with those, having, that childhood, I mean, again, your childhood kind of crafts you into the person that you are. And I think that every single person has that moment where, as they get older, they recognize their childhood had that impact. So I guess for you specifically, at what point did your view of the world change, where you kind of recognized the power that your childhood had to catapult you into this great life that you have?
Well, first of all, I also want to say that my dad owned delis.
Wow.
delicatessens in New York City. And because we were so many kids, when we were off from school, you know, my mom couldn't have 6 of us home.
Yeah.
So she would send the 3 big ones into the deli with my dad. The 3 little ones would stay home and play or whatever. They were younger.
Yeah.
So I literally was working in my dad's deli at, I don't know, 6 or 7 years old.
Wow.
Going into work. And here was the thing. I loved it. I remember when he got his first cash register, and I loved playing. I would literally stand on a little stool and let me take the money. I want to take the money. And I loved it. Like, I loved the whole energy of it. And my dad's deli was in like Hell's Kitchen.
Wow.
So do you know Manhattan?
Yeah.
Okay. So it was colorful. And in those days, it was like really colorful because the prostitutes were coming in and like it was just
a lot of different people that you'd be
a
seeing
lot of
every
different
day.
people.
Yeah.
And I loved it. Like there was texture and I just loved going in. I loved everything about it. I loved.
And how old were you at this time?
I'm telling you, I was like 6, 7,
Wow.
8, 9 years old when we would go in.
And meeting a lot of different people and having that kind of responsibility in your dad's business. I mean,
I didn't have a responsibility,
Yeah.
but it was sort of like you're going to work with your dad.
Yeah.
So at first, because my dad worked very early, he would drop us off in my grandma's apartment was upstairs, but I couldn't go back to sleep. So I was running back downstairs. I'm like, I'll make donuts in the back. So I'd make donuts or I'd butter and until I was old enough. And then I loved taking the money. I don't know. There was something about the energy of money.
Yeah.
And I also loved to I would take a product and put it on the side of the cash register and see if somebody would buy it. So
there were some saleswoman challenges there. I love that.
I didn't know it at the time, but it would be like, oh, I noticed when I put the M&Ms there, they buy. It's an impulse buy.
Yeah.
So it was just like, I don't know why. You don't know why that gets you excited.
Yeah.
Like I was that kid that got me excited, right? You know, like I remember when the Drake's guy would walk in and somebody had to count everything to make sure he was delivering what he was supposed to. And I'd be like, Dad, I got this. Yeah. And I would grab the invoice and I would sit there and I would count it. I just loved that feeling.
What about that feeling, I guess, gave you that excitement? Was it the being in control? Was it having that responsibility?
I think there was just something very grown up about it that I liked. I liked doing at a young age grown-up things, you know. When you master something, that's where your self-esteem comes in. Like, a lot of people don't know how to build self-esteem on kids. And the truth of it is when they learn how to do something that they didn't know how to do before, and they're like, I know how to do this. Yeah. So going to my dad's deli every day, I kept learning. Like even math. Yeah. It was like before you knew it, I knew I wouldn't even have to add it up on the cash register. I knew how much the coffee, the ham and cheese, and the M&Ms and the apple were.
Probably a lot better than learning through your typical kind of workbook math
problems.
Doing
so
it in person.
By the end of the day, I was like, I felt, the truth of it is what I learned was that was my self-esteem. I was like, oh, I got mastery at something today. Yeah. I wasn't just staying home playing with dolls. And by the way, I believe that's what keeps me so youthful today.
Definitely.
I still have that same level of curiosity, of love learning something new. I don't care if I'm learning it on YouTube. I don't care if I'm learning it from my son.
Are you a big self-teacher? Are you YouTubing a lot of kind of tutorials?
Yes and no. Because I'm also somebody that, I need to touch it and feel it. I'm a tactile learner. I'm a visual learner. So that's one way. Yeah. But I just got a Starlink.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I just got a Starlink. Yeah. So yesterday I'm putting it together and figuring
out. Was there a YouTube tutorial on how to set it up?
Yeah. Well, my son, I have a 30-year-old son, so he's really amazing at helping me with that. But I got really excited when I reading about how you do it, where you do it. I listened to him, but then I said, but let me figure a little bit more out. So it's I love that kind of stuff. Yeah. I love learning something new, but no matter what it is, I don't care if it's wellness, beauty. Of course, it's the things that I'm interested in. And then sometimes not. Sometimes it's when I have somebody at the house and it's something they're interested in, and I start learning more about artwork or so it's like I still have that same level of curiosity and the excitement. Like literally, like there's an I love the word enthusiasm because enthusiasm, the root word means with spirit, whereas passion means with suffering. So I never really connect to the word passion once I kind of understood that there's suffering in that, So excitement and enthusiasm are things that keep you youthful.
Yeah.
And like keep the brain working and keep the dopamine going naturally, right? So like that I had that by nature. Like I feel very blessed that but my nature, because there's your nurture and your nature. So my nature was that I was that person. I was curious. I wanted to learn. I enjoyed accomplishment. Like I really realized that I enjoyed almost to a fault that my whole identity became my accomplishments. And I actually had, after we sold Equinox, that actually became a real issue for me.
Really?
Because I didn't know who I was. Because I was only, my whole identity was all my accomplishments in my life.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs can kind of get, like tied to their business where again, like I think being an entrepreneur is a very individualistic thing where like you are building this business, the business becomes you. So obviously to have a big acquisition, it can feel, I'm assuming like you're kind of losing that part.
But it's very common when your whole life was accomplishment. Accomplishment. So for me, it was like accomplishment as a dancer, and these kind of accomplishments. Accomplishing something and feeling good, and then what's the next thing I can accomplish? And even if I didn't get, it wasn't about getting accolades or notoriety. It was inside of me. So it was like I did that, I did that, I did that. Like and then all these accomplishments, like getting into the professional group at a young age, and then doing this, and then getting into good colleges, and then becoming a Rockette, and then this, and then just all these compliments you have. And then it was time to do Equinox, and then it was just that. But then you sell, and you don't have to work. There's enough money that you don't have to work. But then it's like
finding the
who
next
am
step.
I?
Yeah.
Like I didn't like. It's really interesting because I was so excited. I mean, like that year that we were going to be selling, but I thought every day was going to feel like the 4th of July. You know how like the 4th of July is like, there's fireworks, there's excitement, there's the delicious watermelon that you're eating and the smell of barbecue. Like, I don't know, like every day, like there was
energy on 4th of July is very different. When everyone's over, everyone's celebrating.
Exactly. And the smell, just everything is just smells, everything tastes better, smells better, feels better. It's just this like effervescent thing, right? I just thought every day was going to be like, and it was the polar opposite. I literally, we sold in December. We cleaned out our desk. We did all that. That was a little bit emotional because a lot of the people didn't know we were selling. They kind of thought we were maybe merging or getting I don't know what they thought, but we weren't really, because what we were selling was our whole team. And we didn't want people to leave and, get afraid. Oh my God, new people are going to come. I better go get, And I could go to drop-off now to take my son to drop-off, which was not something I could do, because I was usually getting picked up at 7 o'clock to go and tour all the clubs. So now I go and I'm walking out. I'm walking off the playground. He was in a school in New York City. And I'm walking off the playground. And, first I was chatting with the women a little bit. Everybody were back. And all of a sudden, as I'm walking out, it felt like somebody muffled my ears. And the whole playground just went like this.
Wow.
And I stood there for a second, and I'm like, what's happening? I'm like, I'm 41. Like, am I having a stroke? Like, I was in the best shape. Like, what's going on? Like, am I having a heart attack? And a couple people like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm just a minute. Queen of wellness. I can't look like I'm having a heart attack, right? So I'm just like, and I walk home. And I'm in this big cloud. I can't even explain it. Everything feels muffled, that feeling. And I climb into bed and I call my mom. And I'm like, Mom, I don't know what's happening. She's like, what's wrong, sweetheart? And I said, Mom, I can't explain it. She goes, it's been a month. You've had a lot to process, and just get into bed and rest a little bit.
Yeah.
It's been a big month. It's been a big year. You've just had a lot. I had Zach on a Monday, and I had an entire marketing meeting at my house the following Monday after a C-section. So there was no
no time to rest at all.
There was
That's
no
right back into
there
it.
was no
Yeah.
6-week maternity leave, or now I think they take a 6-month maternity leave.
Yeah.
No, none of that. And I didn't stop. It was just nonstop from before then through then.
For you specifically, what gave you the courage and the determination to do that every single day?
I mean, first of all, I have to say, Equinox especially, it was the three of us, me and my 2 brothers. So, and what was great there is that each one of us had a different lane, a different expertise, even though things did cross over, of course, because there's so much to do. But for instance, my one brother did the money and the real estate. I mean, we couldn't do that without him. I couldn't do that. I'm not. I ain't even good at buying a house with money. That's not my skill set. So when I look at that, getting the money, raising the money, getting the real estate, we couldn't do that without him. Now my other brother builds and still is a huge builder. Builds the most beautiful, clubs and buildings and builds things. He's a builder, and and then could go and all the equipment and So it really was I always look at it and say it was a magic, not just magic. It was the magic, the expertise, the tenacity, the commitment, the resilience, all of that in there.
And that makes a great partnership. And I know you were just sharing about how having the enthusiasm to do that every day. Would you say that's a driving factor for you, Taylor?
I mean, look, there were days where it was hard, but, I, by nature, believe all young people should be doing a deep dive in personal development, and I started young because I liked it, because I was interested. I was interested, I was so in love with the body part of it, but I realized the mind was just important. Before it was cool. So enthusiasm and excitement, sometimes you have to train yourself to do it. It doesn't, for some people, it doesn't come naturally. And there's even days now where, I have to go, Lavinia, we're going to put your big girl boots on today, and you're going to put a smile on your face, and you're going to fake it to make it. And you're going to go through this. And you know what? Once you do it, and for me, I do this, the thing that I now call MOVEJOY, but I do that. And that gets the oxygenation in my brain. It gets me going, and I can now. It clicks everything, and I'm like, I got this. It was a fight. Every day we were fighting. Every day it was, we had to fight to get our numbers up. We had every day you had to do that. And I guess I'm a good fighter. We were all good fighters. We didn't grow up with a silver spoon in our mouth. We grew up. You got to go out there and make it happen. You got to go out there and make that happen. And so we had that resilience, that determination to do it, which I think is sometimes sad for some of these generations now, that they don't have that. They don't have that belief. If I lost everything tomorrow, which I don't want to lose, so God, please cancel that, but I'm using it as an example. I know I might not go back and make the amount of money that I made, but I have it in me. Nobody can ever take that from you. I know the grit, who I am. No, that doesn't mean without my brother Danny, that couldn't have happened. Without my brother Vito, it couldn't have happened. But I was still in it there. Do you know what I mean? When you own that, your hands have been the ones that got dirty. You've got those calluses on your hands. You know what it's like to not be able to cash a paycheck for weeks because there's no money. I know what that's like. I know what it's like to eat at the juice bar or places that we had barters with because I couldn't cash a check. That doesn't scare me. You know what I mean? Even today, that doesn't. When you've been there.
And you've had that experience and that
And
kind
you
of-
also know
yeah.
everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like you have that faith inside of you. It's going to be okay. Well, we will get through this.
Yeah.
Because what gives you that knowing it's all going to be okay is because you've overcome other challenges. So I always say, don't take that away from kids. Don't take that away from young people. Let them own those challenges. Don't try to safety net them.
Yeah.
Because that's what gives you entrepreneurship is hard. I mean, I have been mentoring people for 15 years. And let me tell you, I'm usually mentoring you out of going into being an entrepreneur.
Wow.
Not into it, because I know what it takes. And it isn't for everyone. And even though you're saying it, I watch your behaviors.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You are not an entrepreneur. You're not.
And having to talk people out of that must be very challenging, to talk them out of wanting to go down that path. But I guess,
You know what? I don't. I give them some things to do. Okay, great. Let's go do this. Let's do this. And they can't do it.
Yeah.
And if you can't do it, you can't be an entrepreneur. That's what it takes.
Now, being an entrepreneur obviously is very, very hard. There's a lot of challenges. Now, I guess, for example, when I started AMALFI, I was 19, right? And I think one of the hardest things that I struggled with was kind of that imposter syndrome every single day of, listen, the company's doing great. This feels fake. I feel like I haven't earned this. And it was hard. And it still is hard on a day-to-day basis as you grow a business. I mean, what are some things that you've personally struggled with, that you've overcame, that, you recognized as you were building?
You have to also, this is my opinion, you have to have a business that is helping people or is impacting on some way their life. That's for me. I don't know if I could ever be successful in something if I didn't see that it was going to impact people's lives in some way for the better.
Yeah.
But that's just my own personal thing. So when I do, I'm very driven by my number one core value is service. I didn't know that at the time, but I know that now. For sure, service is my number one core value. So when I have that in there, no matter how hard it is, and I know I'm going to help people, that makes me unstoppable. Now, that doesn't mean you have to look at doing things different. Sometimes you're like, okay, I've got to, we used to say, cut the bleeding. You've got to stop the bleeding, right? You've got to say, okay, this is bleeding us. We thought we were going to be getting more revenue through that situation, and we're not, so we got to stop it. I mean, and it's hard.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you've put a team in place for that, and it's hard.
There's
and
that sunk cost fallacy where you've spent so much on it that you want it to work.
And you want it to work, but at one point it's just not working. And that takes courage to stop that. That's why I say it's not for everyone, because sometimes I think I don't have because I care too much about everybody.
Yeah.
You have to be able to remove yourself from those things, and that's not easy.
To kind of because again, I think when you're building a business, especially when you're building it from the ground, you're close with all your employees and you're making decisions that affect them. So having
you felt like they were family.
Yeah. Now, I love what you said when you said that, when you're building a business, passion's there. And I'm the biggest proponent of every business needs to have a mission greater than themselves.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But that's service. That really is the service part of it, right? That is how are we, I saw with Equinox, and I always feel like I'm a combination of artistry, because I was a dancer and that, and community, people. Everything for me is people. How do we help? How do we make? I remember my one brother saying to me about my front desk staff, Lavinia, we're not running a halfway house. You have all these young people on here that are, and I'm like, well, this one just got out of rehab, 18. This one just got out of that. He's like, Lavinia, but you can't keep hiring people like that. But that's what I wanted. I just wanted everybody to find something here. And I think there was something about that, that I was hiring people that were maybe struggling emotionally and come here and we'll be your family. We're going to make you safe. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But I probably hired more broken birds than anybody I know.
Wow. And building Equinox was kind of your passion there on the service aspect to build that community for people to feel comfortable
I
coming
think,
to?
and I don't even know, honestly, Colin, if I was aware of it at the
Yeah.
time. I can't sit here and say to you, no. But I know that that's what was happening organically.
Yeah.
The people that I was attracted to, like even the woman the first employee that we really hired, there were other women that had so much more qualifications, but I wanted her because there was a feeling that I even felt the energy between us felt great. And I just felt it. I felt like, no, there's going to be something special here, where all these other women were coming and they ran squash clubs and they ran these clubs and they had all these big resumes. But I knew that we needed something different than that.
And I guess what would you attribute that to being one of the biggest differentiators of Equinox?
I think so.
Yeah.
Like, I really feel like in the beginning, for sure, that there was this collectiveness that you couldn't put your finger on. Now, first of all, you walked in, it looked different than anything else. Our first club was very industrial looking, but cool, like really industrial, cool. Nothing had looked like that, You have to realize, our biggest competition in those days was happy hour. We had to get people going at a happy hour instead of going to happy hour and drinking and mingling and meeting people from the opposite sex. Now I had to say, no, you're going to come here.
Yeah.
And you're going to still have a vibe. It's still going to be sexy. It's still going to be hot. And you're going to be doing something really good for yourself.
I just think it's interesting that you're saying that because, like, there's literally times after work where, I'll go to the gym and maybe I'll win in the morning, but the community and the people you're meeting is irreplicatable anywhere else. And I think that's really amazing. So we're going to dive deep into MOVEJOY.
Okay.
So tell us about MOVEJOY and your vision for this movement.
So, first of all, I think I told you earlier that I believe very often things that come to fruition, seeds that maybe are planted, come from hardship or come from pain. So I want you to know, for whatever reason, the trajectory of a lot of my success in creating things comes from something negative happening.
Yeah.
So it's the way it is, and I embrace it.
And I think embracing those negatives and turn them into the positives.
Exactly.
Really
and
important.
say, what did I learn from this? If I'm going through this shit, other people are going through it too. Yep. So again, how can I impact? How can I be of service? Like, for whatever reason, that just always is there. Even when I'm not conscious of it, it's there. So 2020 comes. Like the rest of the world, everything is in a crazy place. I start my little crazy journey. And by nature, I happen to have a lot of anxiety. I'm just somebody that from a young age, anxiety was part of my life. Yeah. My marriage started disintegrating, and I didn't see that coming. So I was really feeling very heavy, very heartbroken over it. I found out one of who I thought was my hero, of my financial guy, was making investments in things that was making him money and not me money. Wow. So that was like a little bit of a... And then I had another family situation that to this day, I really don't understand how it went from that to that. And the next thing I know, I'm being served with papers saying I'm going to have a potential $100 million lawsuit. Wow. So those three things, I mean,
those are pretty big catalysts.
When I tell you, took me out.
Wow.
Like, took me, all those beautiful rituals that I had, I was still doing. And I never felt there were days I could barely get out of bed. Like, wow. I was just paralyzed. It was just really, I can't even explain what my body, what my nervous system was going through. It was just something that was really horrible. And then that lawsuit, it was like, what? Like, I was just like, how? Like, and like, I didn't want to put all this on my son. I have one son, and this is his mom, who we love so dearly. And so I was trying to act strong, but in the meantime, I was just like, whew. Yeah. It was a lot.
Especially, by yourself and not to have someone to bounce it. Did you kind of talk to your son about it, and was he helpful, or?
Yeah, I did, but, and of course I have great friends, but everything was so sacred. It was just like I didn't want it to be public. I mean, not that I'm a super public person by any means, but I had a lot of shame around it. I had and the first thing I do, because I have done my work, I point a finger here.
Yeah.
Like, how am I responsible? Where am I responsible for this? How, in the past, I always would shrink. Like, I was the queen of being able to dim my light to make other people not feel inferior or like me. That's another podcast. Because a lot of times people like us have a light.
Yeah.
And that light can make people feel. But at this stage in my life, damn, man, I did not see that happening, at all. So I never really consider myself a very religious person. I consider myself more a spiritual person. And I literally found myself on my knees praying. I didn't trust myself after that. I didn't even trust myself to pick the right financial people. Like everything just crumbled. Like my belief systems, my trust. I was just like, how? And I had already been teaching an online class to more just being of service. It started more from my friends in New York that were in terrible lockdown and they weren't working out. And when we would do a Zoom call, I'd watch their energy. I'm like, guys, come on. Like, you need to get it back. Like, unconditional love. Well, we can have unconditional joy. The world could be falling apart and we could still have unconditional joy. Like, we can do that.
I love that.
So, we may not be feeling happy, but we're going to create some joy. So I was teaching, but more of like a regular exercise class, just, again, family and friends, and friends would invite friends. It was all on Zoom, and everybody was loving it, and they were getting happy because they were getting fit. And, well, anyway, so now I have this, like, cathartic moment where I'm, like, on my knees praying. A couple days later, I'm in bed, and I'm, like, now I'm writing, and I'm praying, and I'm writing, and I'm praying, and I'm, like, kind of falling asleep. And I literally feel this. Now, don't think I'm woo-woo.
Okay.
But I literally feel this thing go, like somebody came behind me and pushed me and said, move. So I'm like, move? What, move? Like, what does that mean?
Wow.
And I was, like, literally in that cloud, like almost like that cloud that I talked about.
Yeah.
After I sold Equinox, the same type of thing. Like, but this was more like a depression. Like, I was depressed. A few days later, I'm outside. I'm sitting on my outdoor furniture. I have this big, beautiful kapok tree, which is an amazing tree because it's huge, but it has silk and it has flowers and it just keeps blooming, the most amazing things. And I'm sitting under this tree, and again, I'm like resting my eyes. I'm getting outside to get a little bit of vitamin D and in my long bones, and I'm falling asleep, and I get that same jolt, and it says move. And I'm like, so I stand up and I start moving my body and I start breathing. I start moving my spine and I start moving and I start affirming and I start saying, I am strong, whatever I'm saying. And I'm kind of almost like praying.
Yeah.
I'm moving, I'm praying, I'm visualizing, I'm doing my Joe Dispenza, visualizing certain things, and I'm doing it. And I did this for about 20 minutes, and I opened my eyes, and I was like, oh, I feel a little better. Came outside the next day and did the same thing. I moved, I prayed, I affirmed, I visualized, I moved a certain way, my spine, prayed. Came back the next day. And about 6 weeks to a month, 2 months, I don't remember the time. But all of a sudden, it was a Friday, and all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my God, I feel better.
Wow.
And then I started taking what I was creating, putting some, and now I started incorporating that into my class that I was teaching with these women online. And they loved it. They're like, oh my God, I love all this new stuff. And by the way, a lot of the women that we have are not women that would go to, they're older. And that also made me start looking at things like, 92% of all women over the age of 38 hate their bodies. 92% hate their bodies. So when they go to Equinox, Soul Cycle, Barry's Boot Camp, Orange Theory, wherever they're going. They're going there. I got to change my body. I got to get fitter. I got to get rid of cellulite. I got to get rid of back fat. They're never going, I love my body. Oh my God, I love my body.
There's like that lack of like self-love. And I think that your classes give people that.
Right. And this is really about we move. We celebrate that we get to do this every day. Number one, that we live in a country that we have the freedom. Like, hello. There's other countries where you don't have the freedom to get up and I'm going to move for an hour. Just come in and start moving your body and find, like, life is movement. Movement is life. Just feel the life in your body. Let's just connect to the life in our, like I have a saying that goes, holy shit, I'm alive. Like, I'm alive.
Yeah.
Like, let's celebrate that today. I'm alive. And let's just celebrate.
And they feel this sense of love and affirmations they're getting from their class, so they're keeping back. I mean, it's literally kind of what you mentioned about Equinox. Like, you're building this community where people want to go and they like the people that are around them. And again, it's not like a, you have to do this every single day. You're coming here, you're moving, and you're feeling that. Now, are most of your classes in person or online?
No, all online right now. Yeah. We have a platform. We do it live, and then, of course, the app has people that can do it. And I even do like microdoses of it. So I believe, even if you do your half an hour workout in the morning or 45-minute workout, you should do some other things too. So at 4 o'clock, when most people want to grab for some kind of sweet snack because their sugar level's going, we do 3 minutes of this. So like for me, like this morning, I didn't get a full workout in, but I did 15 minutes of this. Now I'll go back. I might even just go stand outside and wait for my ride and do 15 minutes right outside. Wow. Like I can do it anywhere because I want to just keep moving. I want to keep moving the energy in my body.
What are the main things that, with movement that you want people to take away from MOVEJOY? Well,
first of all, I want you to realize something. Do you remember the law of thermodynamics?
Yes.
Okay. That universal life force energy, it can't be created and it can't be destroyed, but it can be moved. We have life force energy in every one of our cells, right? Well, through the course of a day, we have all these emotions. 80% of the emotions are negative. Those negative emotions they move and they transform that life force energy. So we have to know how to get our life force energy back, okay? So I want you to think of MOVEJOY the same way you floss your teeth, the same way you use a water pick for your hygiene. You are using MOVEJOY to change the life force energy in your body.
And transform this negative energy into positive
energy?
And
it's not really even negative energy. There's a negative emotion, and there's energy that comes with that, and that lives on us.
Yeah.
And when you just have all this worry, fear, shame, betrayal, resentments, jealousies, all the not enoughs, not smart enough, not young enough, not beautiful enough, not skinny enough, all those things living on our body, it transforms our life force energy. So you want to change that energy. You want to change that energy. Like after you do it, just do 15 minutes of the MOVEJOY. Then go to Equinox and work out. Do 15 minutes, go to Soul Cycle. Do 15 minutes, go to Barry's Boot Camp. It's not in lieu of. Yeah. Now, I do have a movement part of it, especially more for the women who, you know what? First of all, if you don't have 15 minutes to get there or 20 minutes to get to the gym and get in and go to the locker room and do this and do that, what happens is, people have said to me for years, Colin, Lavinia, design me the best workout. What's the best workout for me? And I'm like, the one you're going to get in today. That's the best workout. And you know what? If the only way you're going to work out is if you go to that gym, and you're not going to be able to go to that gym because life shows up, and especially as we get older, you have your own children that you're dealing with. You have your spouse that you're dealing with. You have your problems. Then you have your aging parents that you're dealing with. You have your own menopause or postmenopause or premenopause. All the feelings of an alien visiting your body and not feeling good. Like there's going to be 1,000 reasons why you're not going to get to that gym. So if by not going to that gym, you're not going to get movement in, then that's not a good plan. There has to be a plan that there's an alternative. What am I going to do if I don't have time to get to that gym today? Because the chances are they're not going to be able to. You're 23 and you're on your own. So you can pretty much get there. But when you start dealing with these other layers and layers, there's always a reason not to get to the gym. We need to be able to do things that we can move that beautiful body, move your spine, get that heart beating, get those lungs expanding, get those muscles working so that our metabolism stays strong. That's why I love MOVEJOY. We make it fun. Like it's fun. Like it isn't like, ugh. I got like these women, like I have women that have rheumatoid arthritis, that have lupus, that have all kinds of stuff. And they have to move their body every day, even when they're in pain. They don't have a choice. But you know what? They're so excited to do it. You know, it's community. We start with a gratefulness practice. You say, I am grateful for. I am grateful for. Like we start with that. Then we start with this breath work. You know, we get the oxygenation in. Then we hold our breath. And then I say, I'm going to get you a little high on your own supply. Get them a little high. And some of them haven't felt that.
Wow.
And they go, oh, wow. We do that again. And then we start moving in a way where we're releasing the energy. We're releasing. And we say, I release. I let go. I let my spirit flow. I release. I let go. I let my spirit flow. We want your spirit to flow. We want your soul to flow. You know, when you're in your body and you have that, like you feel strong in your body, like it's like I feel strong in my body. When you feel strong in your body, it's like you feel strong in the world. You feel strong when we go through these crazy fires and evacuations and everything, that my body's strong. I'm going to be okay. You know, you want it. That's an embodiment.
Now, for our audience listening, how can they get involved with MOVEJOY?
Come on to movejoy.life. And I would love for them to come on. I'm happy to give them a couple weeks free to join us. I mean, through the course of the day, it's your thoughts, your words, your actions, your attitude that creates your life, right? And this really does help with that. You know, you wanna start your day in a foundation. You know, like you start your day in a way where it's like, okay, I'm grounding myself. And you ground yourself. You learn how to like really ground yourself and get into your body, get into your mind. So you're not just constantly going everywhere else. And especially with this Instagram and all this social media, it's easy to get out of here and go everywhere else, you know? So have a tool that brings you back to you, like brings you back to center you, you know? And for me, it's this. I mean, I can literally do 90 seconds of movement with this certain breath work and come right back to me. And let me tell you, I use this a lot during the fires. We evacuated almost 6 times over the last 2 months, you know? And I literally, with my anxiety and where I could go, but I didn't want my heart rate to go up to that. I wanted to keep my health in the right. I just had this 90-minute, do my breath work, and I could just get myself back into that place.
So if our audience starts their day with MOVEJOY, and obviously I'm sure it's open to everyone. Right?
Well, we really cater to women, like our on-live classes are women, but certainly all of our the dosing and all the small ones, that's for everyone. Like even like in between meetings, like the other day I got off of a tough meeting with the attorneys and with people like that, and I had to jump onto a marketing meeting. And I just did.
Yeah, having a way to center yourself.
I had to change the energy because I could feel my jaw was tight, and I was like literally 2 minutes of that in between meetings, and now I get on there and they're like, oh my God, Lavinia, you look great. You're glowing. And I'm like, yeah, it's good.
I want to end with what you said in the beginning, which still has really resonated with me, on the importance of self-love. Because I think that, you know, touches on a lot of the different things that that we kind of talked about. What role does self-love have in your daily life when you're building a business or if you have a job and a career? And I guess how important is that?
I mean, I think it's so important because, but that is going to mean doing the work. That is definitely going to mean doing some of this internal work. So, when you are connected, so even if you're going to say, I'm going to do this because I don't really want to do it, but I'm understanding it's part of the job of where I need to go to get to the next place, you're doing it and you're able to talk yourself through it. There's an understanding to say, I don't really want to do this. But it's like, that is better than saying yes to something and not acknowledging inside of you that that's not really what you want to be doing. You know what I mean? Because you're saying, but I'm choosing to do it. Yeah. Not doing it from a place of victim. Because there's another energy there. So I do think doing that internal work to love yourself and here's another part. Love all of you. Like, we all have a dark side. We all have an ugly side. Like, at the end of our class, we give ourselves this big hug. And we say, I love you. And I say your name. Say, I love you, Lavinia. And I said, I want you to understand, I want you to love all of you. The gossipy side, the moody side, the nasty side, the mean side, the beautiful side, the genius side, the generous side. Because as human beings, we have all of those. We have all of that. And we have to learn how to love all of that. Like this encompassing of loving, because we're human. We're never going to be perfect. We're never going to be perfect, right? So when you just say, I love you, girl, and you're doing the best you can, you're doing great, you're doing the best, and I love you, just keep going. When you do that and you've done the work, though, like, you have to do the work. Like, you have to know the things in your life that aren't, that don't, for me, it's all about integrity. Like, I'm not going to do anything that's out of my integrity. And trust me, I have. And that's why I think business is also hard, because sometimes you got to, like, almost, lie, cheat, and steal to get somewhere. Like, I hate that. And I hate that part of the business. And you know what? It's like, it's there. It really is there. And there's a part of me that's like, today I don't want to be part of that. Like, I'm just like, and maybe it's easier for me to say because I don't have to worry about putting food on the table for my kids. I don't have to worry about putting a roof over my head. But when you're first making that work, there's not a lot of boundaries that way. I mean, there's just not. It's fucking ugly. It's ugly. When I go back, I'm like, oh, God, forgiveness. I got to forgive myself for that. I got to forgive myself for that. I got to do a lot of forgiveness work just in business. Because you kind of had to screw people over. You had to schmooze them and lie to their face and say, yeah, like, we're in this together. We're partners. We're this, that. I'm like, no, we're not partners. Like, or whatever it was, like, when I look back now, I was like, ooh. But that's the real deal. Like, that is the real deal, which people don't always talk about, right?
And I think it's important to share that kind of authenticity of what it is like.
Yeah.
To do that. And that's kind of...
And that's probably why I haven't done anything again. Because I didn't...
MOVEJOY something.
Well, MOVEJOY something, and it's aligned with my heart, and it is, but I'm doing it from a different place. But like look, the first time we sold, when I say the first time, I mean, we completely got out of that completely I think it was 2007. But I had so many opportunities. I mean, everybody, when my 5-year non-compete was up, wanted me, like celebrities, they wanted me to help them make a chain and do this. And I thought, no, because I know the bullshit part, and I don't want that anymore in my life. Like, I want to just live a little bit more in the light. And I just felt there were too many things about business that is dark. And I just didn't have to choose it, so I didn't want it. So I consulted more and I mentored more, because I have to get up in the morning and participate. Like, I can't work out all day, shop, go to lunch, and whatever, do a little charity work. I mean, that's great for some people, but I have a lot of energy. Like, you could see, I have a lot of energy. Like, and I want to use it. I want to impact. I want to help. But I knew it was like I couldn't do, because the business, there's too many too many things in the business that just are dark energy for me. And you have to do it when you're putting a roof on your head and you're building it out and you're in your survival. We were in our survival. I mean, Equinox was we didn't have any, that was that or nothing. Like, we didn't have a plan B. There was no plan B. We didn't have a rich father that was going to bail us out of anything, or a rich uncle, or when the grandfather dies. Like, this was it, and we worked every day knowing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that instills a very different level of
commitment,
kind of grit and commitment to the business. Yeah,
for sure, and so, and I just knew that there was parts of the business that I didn't want that dark. I didn't want that. I wanted the light. I wanted the love. And I know that may sound woo-woo-y.
No, I love you saying that. I think that's something I've never heard before. But, I mean, it's true. And I think a lot of people don't really dive enough into at what cost things happen. And I think when you're building a big business, I mean, obviously there's a lot of things that people don't talk about. So I think that's really insightful to have that. But, I mean, overall, our discussion today, I'm leaving this wanting to completely change my entire morning routine. And I genuinely mean that. And I think finding ways to center yourself and understand what's driving you is really important for a lot of the viewers in the audience and the people that, have businesses. So I want to thank you for coming on. This has been amazing to hear your story. And again, I could talk for hours about this, and I look forward to sharing MOVEJOY with our audience and obviously staying in touch. Yeah. Thank you very much for being here.
Wonderful. Thank
you.